Each year, thousands of people visit Connor Prairie Pioneer Settlement. Here on the banks of the White River between Indianapolis and Noblesville, William Connor, a young fur trader, established his trading post in 1802. A National Endowment for the Humanities grant made it possible for 22 teachers studying from states east of the Mississippi River to be the first teachers to live in this pioneer village, recreating the life of early Hoosier settlers. Here at Connor Prairie, the teachers met early 19th century craftsmen, the blacksmith, woodworker, the potter, in their shops, working and talking about affairs of the day, 1836 style.
Small egg bowls here today, weigh 1.5 pounds. We're weighing them up like that while I can keep them all about the same. I ain't got your neighbor running down here complaining. You got a bigger one than she did. I'm gonna center this clay up first. Reckon you folks met the Widder Brooker, didn't you? Up on the hill. Son Ethan's getting married here soon, 21st, Tuesday. What you gotta do next is get rid of Abigail. She's working on her about 14th quilt. She still ain't spoken for yet. So that tells you something about her. She's gonna have to look beyond this village probably to find her a man.
Every pioneer village had a loud school where the young'uns attended 6 days a week, starting at 7 a.m. from the end of harvest in early November to maple syrup time in February.
So you be ready to start.
Education at Connor Prairie is quite a contrast to the new American Studies program that teachers like Wayne King will introduce in their classrooms this fall, relating the literature, art, and music to the history and customs of the times.
I find it unique. You know, in Virginia we have Williamsburg, and I've never experienced living in a village that was set up in 1836, a living museum. So it is unique. We've been for 3 weeks talking about history and American culture, dealing with the problems of American history, the technology, the landscape, and here we are now trying to get some experience and some imagination about what it was like in 1836.
They make it easy, don't they? Just as though they take you back to the period.
They do, and especially the interpreters, the people who are here to explain things to you, the characters that they play. Very quickly you get into the period and begin asking them questions and begin thinking that you're part of that. That's what I found to be the most valuable experience, talking to the different levels of the society, from the farmer to the people who are in Mr. Connor's house, and the person who's weaving. Especially I like the blacksmith, actually working something, making something.
They never get out of character.
No, they don't. That is what I think makes a living museum most important. It's impossible to go back in time, but with your imagination, I think that you can, in some sense, get a sense of the time and try to feel that you're there, and how did these people feel at this time, and what is it like living in a cabin instead of a duplex.
Are you pleased with the way the whole American Studies program is structured?
Yes, in fact, this has been the most important experience I've had since I became a teacher, which was 13 years ago. The 26 or 27 teachers that we have here from all east of the Mississippi are probably the best teachers that I've ever been with. We live close together. We've been talking education and U.S. history and American literature, American culture for several weeks, and I think we all feel it's a very important experience.
How is this going to make you a better teacher and make you turn out better students?
Well, what American Studies is attempting to do is come up with a program that allows the students to see the interconnections in the different disciplines, to show the interconnection between, say, the novels of Hemingway and history of World War I and of the 20s. So the approach is, what I'm doing myself is sort of restructuring the way that I look at U.S. history. The approach is to not only use the historical documents, but to use the poetry, the literature of the time, the paintings of the time, to illuminate history, to try to crystallize a certain concept. American Studies is very concerned, in my opinion, and should be, with themes. The themes of the landscape and how the landscape has changed. We're in a landscape which was 1836, and this was frontier. Now the frontier is gone, and our landscape is now an urban landscape. And to give the students some sense of this change, at the same time give them a sense of the continuity within that change in American history. I think American Studies has one thing to offer, and that is that a student that goes through an American Studies program will have a better sense of what really is American culture, so that when they experience changes in the society, they can evaluate those changes against not only what is changing, but also what has remained the same, and therefore become a better citizen, a better person for it.
Tools and hardware in here, and generally be working with iron. But when it comes time to make something like an axe or a chisel or an auger bit or any sort of thing that's got to stay its shape like a spring or hold a keen edge, for that you got to use steel. I get my iron from Pittsburgh. I get my steel from the Girard brothers. We have a rolling mill in Cincinnati on Canal Street. They make up what's called blister steel. I find it being right convenient to be so close to Cincinnati to being able to buy some of it. Formerly, my steel had to come all the way from Sheffield, England. Now, this piece I'm working on here is a hasp, which is a piece of hardware, of course, and that sort of thing doesn't have to be steel at all. It should be iron, because anything's got to be out in the weather. At best be made out of iron. For one reason is it won't rust away nearly as fast. One folks are most worried about around here is price. Iron costs me about 8 cents a pound, whereas steel costs me 20. Folks don't like to be paying for anything more than they absolutely have to. There's about 3 tools a blacksmith's got to have. Those 3 tools, of course, would be a hammer, an anvil, of course, got to have a forge fire. Starting out with those 3 tools, anybody calls himself a blacksmith should be able to make up any of the tools he'd need thereafter.
Miss Madison, how will you relate the American Studies experience?
Well, there are a number of ways that I would like to relate the American Studies experience with my students, but the major thing that I focus upon would be the fact that this is the way our people have lived in early years, and we've talked about this in class. I've read about it, but I never had a chance to just role play and do what you might say an experience where I could put myself into a real setting. And I would like to let my students know what it's like to be in a real setting, and possibly one day I could bring them on a field trip in the area and let them live in a real setting like this, see how their culture has developed over the years on the land.
And here at Prairie, of course, they live very close to the land, and
Right.
it gives you a real experience.
You're exactly right, and this is what we need. We need more real experiences in our classroom to help our students understand what our culture has been like and how our culture has changed over the years and why it has changed.
to help you going through this experience to understand it, to give you a better understanding?
It definitely has given me a better understanding just today, because here we are without the facilities that we normally have at home, and this is the way the people lived in earlier years, and we never think about how they had to adjust, well, to the various ways of life. And right now I'm dressed in a costume, which is the type of clothing that they wore, and I understand we're going to do some preparing meals the way they prepared meals. And you can relate this to your students in a sense from reading about it, but you can always relate better if you've lived the experience yourself. And this is what we're doing now.
Now, back to the overall American Studies program. Let's go into it in some depth. What are you getting from this?
Well, from the overall American Studies program, I'm getting an in-depth study of how to relate the art, cultural, and musical development of our nation to my students. We have focused upon this prior to this program, but we have not gone in-depth study. And we would like to go in in-depth study and let our students see how beautiful our country has developed along that lines of music, art, literature, and other phases of development.
Tell somebody to fix up a bowl of coffee. Yeah. You should have seen the ones I fished out before I put the beans in. Much.
You ladies want to put some salt in bowls and bring out some table?
And there's pepper in there in those little spice boxes on the bottom. Yes.
A Hoosier supper of green beans and ham and taters with cornbread and apple butter. So good.
It's marrying time!
It's marrying time!
It's marrying time!
It's marrying time!
There weren't many ministers in pioneer villages in 1836. If young folks wanted to get married, they usually got a justice of the peace who was passing through and had a civil ceremony.
We are here assembled together in the sight of God and in the presence of these witnesses to join together this man and this woman in the holy state of matrimony, which is an institution of God and honorable among men, and therefore not to be entered into unadvisedly, heedlessly, or carelessly, but reverently. Come now to be joined. If anyone can show just cause why they may not be lawfully joined together in wedlock, let him now declare it, or forever after hold his peace. Do you, Francis J. Roberts, acknowledge before God and this assembly that you have taken and do now take this woman, whom you hold by the hand, to be your lawful wife, promising never to forsake her, faithfully to love, honor, and maintain her in health and sickness, to forsake all others and keep faith and truth to her in all things as a faithful husband, as long as you both shall live? Have taken and do now take this man whom you hold by the hand to be your lawful husband, promising never to forsake him, faithfully to love, honor, and assist him in health and in sickness, to forsake all others and keep faith and truth to him in all things as a faithful wife, as long as you both shall live? For as much as you, Francis Roberts and Wynell Burroughs, have consented to be united in holy wedlock, and have witnessed the same before God and this assembly, and thereto have mutually given and pledged your faith, each to the other, I do, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the laws of Indiana, pronounce that you are husband and wife. Congratulations. You may kiss your bride.